Hi, I'm Mary, and if you're a single Christian woman over the age of 40, you love God, but maybe you don't really love being single, this is for you. Today, I want to talk about the behavior that we get into when we start to what I call audition for a man. A few years ago, became aware of what is called the PUA, that's the pickup artist. And that's a group of men, and they train each other on how to get women. And one of their favorite strategies is you put a woman on her back foot by giving a subtle insult. So they might say something like, "Well, you're very pretty for someone your age." Or, "Well, for someone who obviously doesn't work out, you seem really healthy." So it'll be this compliment, but it's really not a compliment. It's really an insult. And the reason that they do that is to chip away at your confidence, because their theory is that puts the woman in a state of insecurity. And so then she'll try really hard to get the man's approval. Ladies, we don't want to do this. And honestly, I used to get into that mindset, and I wouldn't even have to get an insult to begin with. So if you ever have found yourself like trying to sell people on you, like trying to explain yourself and reassuring other people that you're a good friend or you're a team player or you're a good woman to date, you're probably slipping into audition mode. I'm a salesperson, so it is very easy for me to get into sales mode. And for a lot of years, I didn't really realize what I was doing. But then once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I had a situation one time with a gentleman I was dating, and I don't know if he was doing this on purpose. I, looking back, feel like maybe he was, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And he had made a comment about, "I just don't know if we're a good fit because you're a university professor, and I had to work my way through college, and I don't have a higher education, etc." And that put me in a place of wanting to convince him, like, "No, it's not like that. I'm a normal, down-to-earth girl." What was funny was this was a phone conversation, and at the time I was mopping my bathroom floor. So, this idea that like I'm too good for manual labor was hilarious, seeing as that I was scrubbing my bathroom floor. But it put me into this state where I was trying to convince him that we were a good fit. Now, looking back, I would not have launched into sales mode. I probably would have said, first of all, I would have seen that as a red flag. But then I probably would have said, "Well, I'm sorry you're having those concerns, but I respect that, and, maybe we shouldn't see each other again." So when you find yourself like trying to be the cheerleader and like, "Oh, I'm good, pick me, I'm the right person, I'm super accommodating," then that does not inspire confidence in a man. Because when you are insecure, it does not make him feel secure. It makes him question himself about his attraction to you. My brother is a professional actor, full-time working actor in Los Angeles, and he told me that the kiss of death for an actor going into an audition is if you're going into the audition with the mindset of, "I really need to get this role." And like for someone like my brother, who is that his whole job is acting, that is his income, he doesn't get paid if he doesn't get the acting job. He has a wife and 2 children and a mortgage, and like he needs to get paid. And it's a difficult shift. And what he said was, if you go into that audition like, I really need this role, you don't have to say anything, but people pick up on it. They pick up on the desperation, and then they'll just say, I just don't like that guy. I don't know why. He's not a good fit. He said the best thing you can do going into an audition is to go in saying, I would really love to get this role, but I don't need it. If I don't get it, it's fine. Now, I mean, like I said, I think that's probably, that's a difficult thing to do, but he told me, he said, sometimes I'm sitting in my car because I really do need the job, and I'm sitting in my car telling myself over and over, I do not need this job. I do not need this job. And it's that energy, okay? So it's not even about what you say or what you do. It's not about faking it, okay? People pick up on that. It's about coming from a genuine place of, hey, this would be great, but I don't need this. Let's translate that into a dating situation. So when you're going on a date and you're thinking, I really want him to like me, I really hope he asks me out again, you're in that auditioning role and you're hoping he chooses you. Where you really want to be more, I would say, in the director role. You're on a date and you're thinking, I don't know if I want to go on a second date with this guy. When I'm teaching my students about job interviews, of course, when you're going on a job interview, you have a feeling of, I really want this job, or it could even be like, I need this job. I've been out of work and I've got bills to pay. So it's not minimizing the importance of you succeeding, but it's about, if you really want it, you have to almost not want it. So what I tell them is, yes, you are wanting to demonstrate that you are a good candidate for the role. But the other side of it is you are interviewing them to see if you even want to work at that company. So you're not just turning over total control. Like in my brother's case, you don't turn over total control to the director in your mind. And in a job interview, you don't turn over like, my entire fate rests in the hands of this interviewer. No, it doesn't, because you get to make a decision also. And, I could envision a situation where my brother might be offered a part and he might say, no, I don't want to do that. So it's about having that mindset shift when you're on a date with a man from, I hope he picks me and I hope he asks me out again, to, let me get to know this guy and let me see what I think. Whenever you're coming from a place of insecurity and I need you to pick me and I need you to choose me and I need your approval, that really causes an imbalance. And also, it puts responsibility on the other person that is not theirs, and it's not fair for them. For example, if you and I are friends and you're constantly needing my approval and my validation, that's putting a lot of pressure on me. Like, I have to keep you emotionally fixed. And if I don't say the right things or prop you up enough, that you're going to feel devastated. Well, it's not my responsibility to keep you emotionally stable. That's your responsibility. You cannot have a healthy relationship when one of the people is in an unhealthy place. And as grown women, it is not healthy for us to outsource our emotional stability to other people. As women, we are designed by God to want community, to want relationship, to want connection. But there's a difference between healthy connection with other people and an imbalanced demand that they approve of you. The only person's approval that matters once you're an adult is God's. In Scripture, Paul, when he's writing to Timothy, says in 2 Timothy 2:15, present yourself to God as one who is approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, and who correctly handles the word of truth. When Paul was writing to the Galatians, he said, am I trying to get the approval of man or of God? Because if I want men's approval, I cannot get God's approval. And once we're adults, the proper order of things is for us to graduate from being a child of our parents to being a child of God. And if you've never read Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend, I highly recommend that book. And they talk about this, but Jesus also demonstrated this. There's a story in the Gospels where Jesus is at a house teaching. The house is packed out. Mary and Jesus's brothers show up at the house. And, Scripture doesn't point it out in this way, but here's my interpretation. So Jesus has gained a lot of popularity. And because of that, just as Paul said, a wide door of opportunity has been opened to me, and with it much persecution. So Jesus is becoming very popular. He's gaining quite a following. The Pharisees are very unhappy. And so, people are talking. And Mary and Jesus' brothers show up. And by the way, if you go read in the Gospels, his brothers were not supportive of his ministry. Now, after Jesus died, of course, and was resurrected, the book of James was written by one of Jesus' half-brothers. But Mary and the brothers show up, and I'm sure they're like, we need to talk to him. And so a couple of disciples come and they're like, Lord, your mom and your brothers are outside and they need to talk to you. And Jesus says, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? Those who do the will of my Father. And Jesus, of course, he loved Mary. He respected her as his earthly mother. When he was on the cross, he made provision for Mary. He looked at the apostle John and said, this is now your mother. He was saying, you need to take care of my mother. I won't be here. So it's, he loved and he respected his mother, but he realized that his primary role was not as a child of Mary and Joseph. His primary role was child of God and doing what his heavenly Father needed him to do. The same is true for us as grown women. If we're going to chase after the approval and the validation of people, that usually requires something different than what approval from God is going to require. Now, the good news is when the disciples asked Jesus, what do we need to do to be right with God? Which for them, in order to be right with God under the old covenant, you would have to keep over 600 laws. And so the Jewish culture was very much about, what do you need to do to stay on God's good side? The Jews are the chosen people of God, so he always has that everlasting love and tenderness for them. But in order to stay on the right side, you had to do all these things. So I'm sure the disciples were expecting Jesus to have this list of things you needed to do. And Jesus said, all you have to do is just believe in the one he sent. And so for us, we don't need to be jumping through hoops to get God's approval. All that's required is that we are saved, okay? So right with God means we do things the way he says is the right way, and what he says is salvation. Jesus said, no one comes to the Father but through me. And Paul tells us the only thing required for salvation is you believe it in your heart, you speak it with your mouth. So we don't have to do all the things and jump through all the hoops and check off all the boxes in order for God to approve of us. And yet, those are the things that we have to do to get people to like us. And I think especially in this age of social media, where, how many likes did I get? What kind of comments did I get? Did somebody upvote or downvote what I put in the comments? I want you to remember, when you observe yourself in that mindset or behavior of, well, I just want this person to like me, just understand you have stepped out of godly behavior, and now you're trying to chase after the approval of men. Now, are you going to lose your salvation? No, of course not. But in Romans 8, Paul tells us that when you're living out of your natural woman, that leads to death. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to fall over dead, but it means that you're not going to have a vibrant, full life. When you're acting in accordance with the Spirit, that leads to life and peace, Paul says. So we just need to, every now and then, I think, take a check. Where am I operating from? Am I operating in the Spirit, which is God says that I'm approved and I'm good enough, and I hope, I'd like to go on this date, and maybe I like this guy. I hope he likes me too, but if I don't hear from him again, that's all right. Or am I in the flesh, which does not lead to life and peace? And when I'm in the flesh, I'm in that place of, I hope he likes me. I hope he calls me. Oh, I need to say and do the right things so that he'll like me. True godly confidence as a woman is not about, like, you never feel nervous or you never feel uncertain or you don't care if people like you. I mean, we're pack animals. Of course we want people to like us. If you are clear about your own value and somebody else does not see your value, for you, instead of launching into, well, let me convince them that I'm good, you might pause and say, wait a minute, they don't see my value. It'd be like if you went to a yard sale and you saw something on the table and you knew for a fact that's a very expensive antique, and the owner didn't know it, and they only want like $2, and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, that thing's worth $2,000. You wouldn't be mad at them because they don't appreciate the value of the item. I mean, you would clearly just take the item and go. And the same is true for you. So if people don't recognize your value, that's on them. And that's saying, you know what? They don't recognize value. It's okay. Let them move on. My experience has been that when I made this mindset shift, instead of trying to be the one who's chosen and seeing myself as someone who was making a choice, I just felt more relaxed. I think it took pressure off the other person. I didn't come across as so desperate and, like insecure. And that's a big turnoff to people. So that creates respect from the other person, and then you're more attractive. And I mean attractive in the sense that you're going to attract more people and opportunities to you when you're in a place of feeling confident versus being insecure and grasping. And to me, that's part of an important mindset shift in what I call the One-Derful Life. That's where you get to a point where you say, I am a woman of value and worth, and I really hope that my Mr. Right comes along, but even if he doesn't, I still have value and worth. And then you're in a space of peace and joy, which is more likely to attract your soulmate. But even if he never shows up, you're okay because you just wanted to feel peaceful and joyful anyway. Now, it's very difficult to feel confident and secure when you're in a broken heart. And so if that's something that you're struggling with, I put a free teaching. It's beneath this video. If you're listening to the podcast, then it is in the show notes. It's called the ABCs of Healing, totally free, and it will help you move past the pain of heartbreak so that you can get to that place of feeling truly good about yourself. And I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.